Keep it inside, I keep it inside of me. Yeah, I keep it inside. It's killing the man, it's killing the man in me. Yeah, it's killing the man. Keep it inside, I keep it inside of me. Yeah.
Welcome to yet another episode of the Crisis of Manhood Podcast with me, your host, Peter Mukuka. Happy New Year and welcome to 2026, Mr. Habala.
Thank you
You're
so
our
much.
first guest on the podcast this year in 2026.
I'm so privileged, Mr. Mkuka. Thank you so much for inviting me through to this podcast.
We're so excited to have you. I think when we look back to 2025, I think there are a lot of things that we can celebrate about. For me, especially around the work that I do, engaging men and boys in as positive community change agents. And I know, of course, you and I have been in the same space for a couple of years now, as in knowing each other. I think one of the biggest highlights of 2025 for me was just reaching the milestone as Men of Honor in existence for 5 years. So yeah.
Wow, congratulations. That's a great milestone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, 5 years is not now. It's a long time.
Of course.
To be in existence and doing the great work that you're doing. That's very good and commendable.
Thank you so much. And so to our viewers, welcome to 2026 once again. So for today, we are looking at a very interesting topic. And for this particular topic, I decided to bring Mr. Raymond because of his background and his immense experience working in the space of gender issues, also around health, and of course, engaging men in these conversations. And so I'm really excited. So for our topic of discussion today, we're looking at why men must be the loudest voice against gender-based violence. Such an interesting topic, yeah?
Yeah, it's very important, to bring men on board for them to begin to discuss these issues. First and foremost, we need to realize that gender-based violence is really a problem for our country. And in most of the time, men usually don't really participate.
Yeah.
You know, we have heard voices from the women, we have heard voices from the survivors of gender-based violence, and we have heard voices from most of the people that are affected. But in terms of the people, especially the men, we haven't heard so much from them. So this is very important that we really call upon the men to begin to discuss this issue.
Yeah, of course. And so maybe before we proceed with our discussion for today, maybe you can just introduce yourself to the viewers.
Okay, thank you so much. First and foremost, I want to really appreciate my invitation to come and really discuss this very important topic. My name is Raymond Habwala. I am a gender expert who's worked in the space of engaging men for the past 15 almost to 18 years. And really my role has been to mobilize the men for prevention of gender-based violence, for prevention of HIV, but also to just have strategies that are engaging men and boys to make sure that our voices are amplified in our communities. And I work for an organization called Zambia Center for Communication Programs, which is Kwato, and equally, which is the Secretariat for Men Engage Zambia. And I'm the country coordinator who is coordinating all the activities for Men Engage Zambia. And out of that, really my view and my aspiration is to have a Zambia or a world where we don't have gender-based violence. And I strongly believe and feel that the missing piece is the involvement of men into prevention of gender-based violence.
Powerful. Thank you so much. I like to let me borrow something from Mr. Tony Porter. So Mr. Tony Porter is the founder of A Call to Men. It's an organization that involves boys and men in responding to violence or ending violence. And one of the things he says is that if women could end violence against women, they would have done so by now. And I think that's something that is really powerful because if you look at the efforts around gender-based violence or gender issues, it's been feminized, like it's a women's issue. Yeah. So, which brings us to our first question for today. Why do you believe that men must be central to this conversation around gender-based violence?
They have to be central because of the role that society has placed a man in our communities. First and foremost, if you look at the way the community looks at a man, they look at a man as a leader. They look at a man as someone who should lead. And if a man has to lead, we need to really look at the issues to do with gender-based violence. I mean, it's a known fact that most of the survivors of gender-based violence are women. But also, rare do we have conversation of then who are the perpetrators. So it simply means that if most of the women are the survivors, it simply means most of the men are the perpetrators. So now, if we have to prevent gender-based violence before it happens, it's very, very important that we go to the source. And where is the source? The source is this violence is coming from the men. So if we engaged at the men, we begin to really look at gender-based violence first and foremost as a crime, two as inhuman behavior, three as something that we should not condone or tolerate, then we're going to have a situation where this violence will not be happening. So to really just borrow basically what you said, that if women had the powers or had the means to end gender-based violence within themselves, they were going to manage. But I think it is something that they have done. It is something that the governments have done. They've put laws, policies, and everything else. But we still have the violence. So which one is missing? I think it is the men. So it is such a timely call for men to take interest. It's a call for us, for men, to begin to discuss this important aspect. Even in our homes, I'll give you an example. We are in our own homes. It's like there is chaos. This one is fighting this one is doing all these other things. But you as a man, the only thing you do is, even out of that, you just, seated, reading a newspaper, like unconcerned with the chaos that is happening at home. Then basically that chaos is going to continue. But the moment that you're going to rise up and, say this chaos has to stop, at least because of the respect, the position that society has placed on you, definitely it's going to end.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You see, I mean, from my own personal experience, when you try to bring men to the table to talk about gender-based violence, they just shun it. Or if you just say, so we have a meeting to discuss issues about gender-based violence, and Velkas, it's for women, like women's issues. It's been, like I said, it's been feminized. And from your experience, how has that challenged your work? How has it made it difficult to get them involved in such conversations?
Yeah, so for the past 30 years, since the Beijing platform, we know that a lot of women went for the Beijing conference. I think it is from that time when we began to talk about the issues to do with gender. And at that particular point in time, a lot of concepts actually started coming in. We had women in development. It changed to gender in development, and now it's women empowerment. So at the center stage, most of the strategies, most of the things that have been there, they are focused so much on the women themselves. And it is now that there is a realization that, we need to bring men on board. But how do we bring them on board? I think it is another conversation that we need to have, because first and foremost, we need to change the perception, because the perception, when you just talk about gender, definitely, men think, I think I have a role to play, because this is the aspect that I've not been engaged. This is not my space, and this is the perception. So we need to debunk that perception to begin to look at it from a different point of view. Because when we talk about gender is basically roles and responsibilities that are subscribed to men or women based on their gender. So society has placed these roles and responsibilities. So these roles and responsibilities, they really apply, to men and women. So they don't just apply to women. So it is such kind of roles and responsibilities that we need to begin to explain to the men. So my experience has been for men, once you create a platform to begin to discuss, they will definitely respond. But then what has been lacking for so many years, it's a platform. We don't have a lot of platforms where we can have a one-on-one discussion with the men, one-on-one discussion with the boys, one-on-one discussion with the the men to begin to look at gender issues as their priority. But if you look at from the other side, the women, they have a lot of platforms where these issues are discussed. So just like you asked, what is the issue? The issue is we need to create a lot of platforms for men and boys to begin to discuss. And these platforms, we should not wait for women to create these platforms for us. We need to create them ourselves so that we begin to discuss. I was attending a conference in South Africa, and one of the issues that came out were, no, but, women, why are you not involving the men? The response was very direct. Why should we wait for women to get us involved? We need to involve ourselves. We need to mobilize ourselves, get ourselves involved to prevent gender-based violence. But it has to begin with aspect of perception that has to be changed.
Like Miles Monroe always like to say that the smallest group in church is the men's group. Like anything that has to do with the men. If you look at the women's group, or if you go to the churches, since Zambia is predominantly a Christian nation, but when you go to most of the churches, you find that the biggest groups are the women's, like the women's ministry. If you have a men's ministry, it's just a few men there. I think for me, even in my space working with men, that's one of the challenges that I face, to get men to come together and do something. There's always a commitment somewhere. But just to pick on your mind, when it comes to just awareness around gender-based violence or what constitutes GBV, do you think that most men truly understand what constitutes GBV? Because at the end of the day, in as much as we have a lot of women as victims, we see that there's also a segment of men who are victims. So do you see that there's an understanding of what really constitutes gender-based violence around men?
That's a very, very important question. And we definitely need to sensitize the men. To start with, we need to sensitize the men in terms of the forms of gender-based violence, which is physical. So they need to understand that, when you raise your hand to begin to hit a woman or a girl, it is gender-based violence. But most of the men, critically thinking, they think if they raise a hand on a woman, especially the wife, they think they're disciplining.
It's discipline.
And, sometimes they would want to even, defend that aspect. Say, but look, what else was I supposed to do? When someone is not in line, I need to put them in line. But then there is something that is missing there, because the moment they do that, it becomes gender-based violence, because the law, will not understand the aspect of discipline. The law will just understand to say, oh, okay, it's bodily harm to a human being who is a female at that particular point in time, and then it becomes gender-based violence. Also, they need to understand that another form, which is sexual violence. So the moment, you begin to force yourself, on a woman, when they say, no, you force yourself, it becomes a rape. And one thing that they don't even understand is consent. Even when there is the act is happening, it can be withdrawn. So they need to actually understand to say if they proceed, they are committing a crime, which is rape. But also, if they decide to sleep with a child who is below the age of 18 now, it constitutes gender-based violence in the form of sexual violence. So most of them, they don't know, and once they know, then they begin to withdraw. The other aspect is incest, when they begin to have sexual intercourse with a relative, a blood relative. It's a crime. It's against what the laws here in Zambia and in most of African countries is. So that is the sensitization that they need to know. The other aspect is the economic violence. Just because there is a problem at home, you begin not to support your family, and something is very common here. Like if there's a problem at home, you even ask your wife to say, go back to your house or to your parents. You deny them the shelter.
Yeah.
So what they don't understand is it's equally gender-based violence. Or you just stop buying food. Or if the issues of medical expenses, you are the one actually who supports the medical expenses, the school expenses, because there is a problem.
Yeah.
You begin to withdraw that support. That is gender-based violence. So in most of the time, they don't pick it like that. There is also the aspect of psychological violence, using very demeaning words, like you're a dog, insulting language, sometimes even just stopping to talk to your to your partner. For some reasons, you begin not to have a conversation because there is a problem. You're not communicating properly. It becomes gender-based violence. So you are torturing the person using the psychological aspect. The aim there, which we need to pick, is you are doing it to harm the other person. Then it becomes gender-based violence. But sometimes also there is the issue of culture, where you want to use your culture to try and abuse women. You don't want them to eat certain foods, certain body parts of a chicken, or and you really insist on that, and the aim is to just abuse. It becomes a problem. So in my interaction with the men is this information is really missing. Just like I said from the very beginning, because we don't have a platform where these issues are discussed. So the sensitization aspect, the education aspect of the men, it is equally not there. But also the strategies are also very different, because you and I, for instance, here we are working.
Yeah.
This is our workplace. So if we need to be engaged, someone has to engage us from here, so that we create a platform just here, the workplace, formal and informal, so that we have these conversations. And once we have these conversations, you'll see that we're going to come to a realization that actually it is the education aspect which is missing. All these other things, they become secondary.
Wow. So overwhelmed with the information. So Mr. Havala, you talked about the cultural aspect, and the environment that men are raised in. Oftentimes men think or believe that if you don't exert certain physical force, you'll be seen as being weak. And mkazi wako aza kudoba, you lose your manhood, kind of. I think that's the language, like mamuna pale mkazi aza kusula. So how can then men replace that physical force, or the physical behaviors towards women? How can they replace that with something positive, and yet maintain what they're trying to accomplish at the end of the day, to have that, normal relationship with their partners, the female partners in that case?
Yeah, so Kuka, we should not run away from the fact that problems will always be there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that no normal human being will just wake up today and begin to beat up the other person. I mean, I can't just go home and begin to beat up my wife.
Yeah.
If I did that, it's probably there is a problem.
Yeah.
There is something that probably we have failed to reason together, and I strongly feel I need now to put that minimum force to communicate.
Yeah.
In most of the time, this is how we look at these issues from a man's point of view. But then, the world first and foremost has evolved. Kuka, before 2011, we didn't have a law that talked about gender-based violence. But after 2011, we have a law, the NGBV Act number 1 of 2011, which defines what gender-based violence is, and also it gives out the definitions of a lot of aspects that has to be there in the management of gender-based violence. So, what does it mean? It means that gender-based violence right now is a crime.
Yeah.
It is as good as you go and steal. It is as good as murder. It is as bad as you basically doing what the government of the country doesn't want you to do. So we need to come to that realization as men. I think it is from that point of view that should help us to see how we can begin to resolve our problems. So there are skills that we need to have the discussion with the men in terms of how we should resolve the issues. For instance, we are saying don't resolve problems using violence, because once you do that, a lot of things would happen. One, out of the violence, your friend would die. Out of the violence, they would have permanent injuries. Out of the violence, they might have contracted HIV. Out of the violence, they might have, especially children, a condition called a fistula. Out of violence, other women, they've gone to they have mental health issues, because of the violence. They've gone into depression and stuff. So it is also the realization and see what we are doing to manhood as men. Is this what we would want to be described with all these bad things which we are talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, is it, do we want to continue committing the crime? If we don't, then we have to have skills in terms of how we can resolve issues through a dialogue, through communication, through respect of the law, but also even the way we are socialized. All that has to begin to change. We need to start looking at women as our equal partners, as human beings. I think we don't want that to begin to happen to us, because if it did, definitely we're going to suffer. The what comes with that. So, from my point of view, we need to promote dialogue. We need to promote if there are problems. I mean, there's a lot of men don't report. If you're being abused, why take the law in your own hands? Report, call the police, so that the law can pick it up from there. Yeah. So that is what I would encourage men, that they don't take the law in their own hands.
Yeah. My take home: don't take the law in your own hands. Yeah. But I've seen that also. There are men, because when a man and a woman are getting together in the institution of marriage, when they're about to get married, it's the men that go and pay an amount. I don't know what's called bride price. They pay, so they feel like this payment is like you're buying a commodity, because objectification of women, I think, has existed for a very long time, and so some people, and there's been an argument, or rather a debate about that also kind of contributing to how men perceive women, that if I pay this amount, then it means I own this person, like it's like a purchase price. I don't see it as whatever it's intended for it to be. What are your thoughts on that?
I want to say something very mean.
Yeah.
Of course, I want to take this podcast as an opportunity to air my views. If there is something that I've always never encouraged, is the issues of bride price.
Yeah.
Because if you look at bride price and the concept,
Yeah.
it's like slavery. You're exchanging money for a human being. But the question that we need to put across is this money or whatsoever that you're paying, is it going to the woman you're marrying, or it's going to the parents?
Yeah.
And that money basically it's going to the parents, and then you have this woman, and definitely there is that thinking that you begin to think, oh, okay, it is just property where you can exchange monies for, and then when you come into this marriage, then you want to treat that as part of your property.
And if it doesn't work out, you can just
You can just and I've always said in many forums, because I'm a father of girls, 4 girls.
Wow.
And for me, I've said it's something that I will not do. I will not do. I will not charge. And even when I'm not there, if there are people that will still be there, I think when marrying off my children, I wouldn't want exchange of money or of some form. But I think let us understand one thing clearly here. First and foremost, the concept of bride price. Even in the olden days, the days of the Bible, it is a concept that was there. Basically, it is appreciation. It is the aspect of appreciation. You are appreciating, the other family because they've raised a good woman, someone who is you're going to live with and have children with. So it is not the aspect of you like you're buying a commodity. So we need to first and foremost debunk that kind of thinking that you are buying. But at the same time, we need to trade very, very carefully, because it is still as the men.
Yeah.
Who is receiving that money?
Yeah.
Who is charging? It's the man, it's the father.
Yeah.
Who will sit and say, give me. And you get it. So it is again, that money comes to still the father. It goes to the family. So if we, the fathers, began not to tolerate this aspect of receiving and also encouraging and abusing this, then it's going to end. So just like I mentioned, that it is still the women are the ones who are affected. For instance, when I'm paying to the father, to my wife. Okay, why should she come and then be treated badly in my house when I didn't actually pay her? But I paid the parents, So it is the men still who are benefiting this aspect of tradition. It is the men who are the beneficiaries. It is the men actually who are double benefiting. On the other side, they benefit, but also when it comes to the house, we're also still, benefiting.
Yeah.
But also, it's good to understand that this aspect is equally being abused. I think a lot of people right now, especially in our country, they are abusing this aspect. For instance, if a girl is educated, they'll say, no, there is this amount. If a girl is the virgin, there is this amount. It's like value. We are placing value on a human being based on what is there. That is the thing that I don't like, and I would want it discouraged. If I had my own powers, that is the part of tradition that I would end like now.
Yeah. Just like you, Mr. Raymond, I think also I'm a father of 2 girls, and you can actually see where it starts from. Right now, both my daughters are still under 6 years old. The oldest is 5, turning 6. But the comments I get from my fellow men, even the women, it's like, hey, ng'ombe zingati
Exactly.
So it starts from there.
I get such comments.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, I get so upset.
Yeah.
I don't hide about it. I would say, please, these are children. These are my babies. Don't see cows. These are not cows.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
they won't even say, you have 4 children.
You are a rich man.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey. I'm not looking at it, from the aspect of benefiting from my daughters. You get it?
Yeah.
I work very hard for them.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking, what is it, what payment would change the way I would view my daughters to make me a rich man, So I don't think we should be looking at it from a benefit point of view, but when we are sending our children, we need to be very, very happy that they're beginning their own families. And since they're beginning their own families, they're starting a family themselves. They have found a partner who is going to give them love. And the only thing probably we should wish them is, tell the man to say, I'm giving you, but under one condition, never ever abuse her. Love her. I think we're going to end a lot of violence if we did that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think that takes us to the next question. The way the boys are socialized. What are some of the ways that you feel like they unintentionally normalize control and silence or emotional suppression regarding the boys in terms of how they're raised?
Yeah. So one day I visited a very friend of mine. They have a son, and his son basically, while we were chatting, the son came, and when we arrived, basically we were seated, and then the son came and was saying, now reporting the mother, Daddy, when you are away, Mommy was beating me up. Please, Daddy, do something to Mommy. And then my colleague was like, what were you doing to my son? He's complaining. Never do that, But I picked up and I told my colleague, I said, that is very wrong.
Yeah.
Because what is it that you're telling your son? You are telling your son that the mother cannot discipline him first and foremost. Secondly, you're showing that you are more powerful in this house, such that it's you to discipline, your wife. So eventually, this boy is going to be a man. What mentality is he going to have? What kind of psychological aspect? How is he going to be viewing the wife and other girls in the society? He would think they are much more less superior than himself. So in most of the time, like the scenario that which I've mentioned here, it so happens, and we do it unintentionally. We want to show love, but there we are socializing them, thinking, oh, okay, so a woman has to be disciplined by a man. The other aspect is, as they are growing up, the boys, the care that we give them, especially when they hate themselves, always want to encourage them. No, you are a man. You need to be strong. Sometimes when they are not doing very well at school, what are some of the comments that would pass? No, you will not be able to keep your family. And sometimes when they feel like crying, we tell them never to do that because it is a sign of weakness as a man. So all those aspects, we are socializing them to think, oh, okay, so as a man, there are certain things, there's a certain box that I need to belong to. And this box is how a man needs to behave. It is such a box, actually, that we have put, the males, and every man who would want to come out of that box, we begin to check them. We'd call them names, sometimes bad names like Johnny Soliowali, meaning this man is just being kept by a woman, and it is such kind of socialization that eventually we begin to see violence as a result. So we just need to first and foremost have a gender box, a box such that we look at both children as children. We socialize them in a way that is respectful to one another. We give them the chores that are not gender biased. We give them the attention that they deserve. And I've seen this even at my home, where we are keeping a nephew, who sometimes would go and they would come back at any time they want. And sometimes we don't even ask him where he's coming from. But if it is the girls, we're checking up on them. We want to control in terms of what time they should be home and stuff. But so what are we communicating? To this boy, what we are communicating is, you can do whatsoever. We don't care. But eventually, that boy is going to have a home. What time do you think he will be coming home? Anytime. Anytime you go drink, do whatsoever, and come back without being checked. But both men and women, especially in a home, to begin to check such kind of behaviors, because that guy will be a husband at some point, but he has to be a good husband, especially with good morals and good nurturing that should come from parenthood.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think maybe just to move on, I see that many times men see violence, or maybe men in their circles exerting some violent behaviors, and they remain silent. Why do you think that is so?
It's because of society. There are what we call acceptable behaviors, and there are also what we call unacceptable behaviors. So for many years, violence was being looked at something as discipline. In other words, it is now that we are saying that is a crime. So even when violence is happening, many men opt to keep quiet, or to just watch, because they're thinking, oh, okay, I think it's a domestic issue. I mean, definitely they'll resolve it.
Yeah.
Or she must have wronged him badly, for him to react in such a way. And also because of what we're able to tolerate, as society. So violence has been tolerated first and foremost. Most of our communities, violence has been tolerated, and it is the kind of tolerance actually which makes people to just think, okay, let me just have my own business and move on. It's not a taboo. Actually, what is a taboo is when you begin to intervene to begin to stop the fight. That's the more reason why we need to engage the men. We need to have conversation. We need to educate them that they need not to just be bystanders and just let the violence to continue. I mean, it's not just on the street. Where I come from in Southern Province, when I marry off my daughter, in case my daughter is beaten and she comes back home, my tradition tells me to actually ask her to go back to the house of the man, or she has to go to the relative of a man. That is where she can take her complaint to. So even the aspect of tradition, you can see that it is there. But also, even when you are going through the teachings, the women are taught a lot of things. But I think most of the things that they are taught is you don't need to take whatever issues which are happening in your house or outside your bedroom. You take them outside. It simply means you're uncultured. So many people also think when they intervene, they think, I think we are uncultured. This is not our culture to stop the fight and stuff, or to intervene. But I think what we need to understand is That is gender-based violence.
Yeah.
We need to intervene in the same way that you see someone stealing a thief. What do we do when you see a thief stealing?
Yeah.
There's more.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes that thief will be beaten.
Yeah, of course.
That is the same way we need to look at violence, but of course not taking justice in our own hands.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one time I was in a conversation with a certain man in the space of work that we do. And I was talking to this man about gender-based violence. And I said, yeah, I disciplined my wife. I beat her up so that she knows her place. Okay, so if she makes a mistake or she does a wrong, you beat her up to discipline. So how about you when you make a wrong? Because you can't say that you're always right all the time. So who disciplines you? No one. When I'm wrong, because me, I'm the man of the house. Of course, I have to discipline her. Me, I don't need anyone to discipline me. So it's like such mentalities, that a lot of men have. And I think that's why there's a lot of work that needs to be done around changing the mindset.
Definitely.
And of course, getting to the next part of discussion, I'm thinking, how do we then make gender-related conversations, I don't know, maybe I can say male-friendly, because sometimes when you're having these discussions, men feel like they're being attacked. You know what I mean? Like, hey, do you think all of us are just like, evil people, So how do we package this information in a way that doesn't, push the men back? Like what we are saying at the beginning of this conversation, that men feel like, oh, this is a women's issue. So now how do we have those conversations, but in an environment that makes men feel, like, okay, yeah, this is something that we need to be part of.
We have a lot of good men out there, but they're silent. Yeah, we have a lot of men that are doing a lot of work around, fatherhood. They're providing for their families. They are loving husbands. They respect women. They're not violent, and actually they behave in a way that is how we should behave. But they're silent. The only problem is they're silent. Who do we happen to know are the bad ones? So we need to celebrate, such kind of men who are doing a lot of good works. But also we need to nip in the bud those men that are violent. They should not have a space in our country. That is a society, and this has to start at individual levels. For me, even when I'm having a good time with my friends, and they bring a topic, which I'm not very comfortable around, for me, it's an opportunity to begin to discuss these issues without demonizing them, to make them look bad. But just have a conversation. For instance, if they have daughters, I would ask them, so this girl you want to, just imagine it's another man to pick your daughter. How would you feel?
Yeah.
Okay, if it's about cheating, having another girlfriend, how would you feel if at all it is your wife who is doing this? So you begin to appeal to their conscience, first and foremost. Two, it's an opportunity to begin to educate them. At a household level, I do this. I have discussions with my family, with my neighbors. At a community level, whenever there's an opportunity to discuss these issues, I do. Even when I'm given an opportunity to be a master of ceremony during weddings, I will not forget to talk about how key men should be involved in preventing gender-based violence, and we are just being practical. We discuss these issues and show them the consequences of violence.
Behaviors. Yeah, thank you. Absolutely, I totally agree. It's moving on as we are concluding our conversation. I know we've had a long but fruitful conversation. There's an aspect that has been, a conversation that has been talked about, that is being talked about rather, concerning mental health. When you think of emotional illiteracy among men and unresolved trauma. How do you think that then contributes to the negative or physical violence that we see amongst men?
When we were growing up, we were just having a discussion.
Yeah.
The form of discipline was beating.
Yeah.
We could be beaten. We could be beaten at school.
Yeah.
When you are late, you could be beaten at home. Whenever you go against the norms of the house, you could be beaten. And it is such kind of psychological trauma that most of the men we're struggling with, because apart from beating, the only thing that we know, which is discipline, is beating, because this is how we were initiated. This is how we were brought up and socialized. So those issues actually still come back to haunt us. But also there is a lot of responsibility that has been placed on men. For instance, as providers, we have the issues to do with looking for food, looking for money, and when you don't do that, society again pushes you, to look like lesser of a man. So what do? You begin to want to prove a point. That's the more reason why when you go to prisons, you find most of the people that are jailed are men. For maybe stealing, for not resolving the issues to do with mental health, because they didn't have someone to talk to when they had problems. For instance, I would even ask here for the listeners, when you have a problem as a man, where do you go? Where do you go and seek help? Which platform? Do you go and have a conversation to say, look, I'm having issues to do with the violence within myself. I'm having issues to do with infertility. I'm having issues, with the bedroom issues at home. Where do you go to and have just a normal conversation and mentoring and support that you're going to have? Those services are not just there. So we need to resolve such kind of things where we have a lot of platforms, where men can actually go and seek help, sit, get the information, get the education. And we also need to look at the socialization process. We need to have a conversation on how we are socialized. Because when something has not been resolved, you begin to see the fruits much more later. Like there's a lot of mental health issues that are going. People have more pressure, and when you have pressure, economic pressure, you think the only where you can resolve these issues are at home, and through violence. For instance, this is what you get satisfaction, but that shouldn't be the case.
My next question, why is it powerful when men openly challenge violence instead of leaving it up to institutions, for example, to deal with it, or let's leave it to the women to deal with gender-based violence or gender-related issues?
So it's very, very powerful for men basically to begin to talk about violence and on how to prevent it. At individual level, we need to begin to challenge each other. First and foremost, at institutional level, we need to begin to challenge it. Even at a very high level, in terms of the policies, and this has to be more or less like a political, a movement where we have the political will. I would love to see a situation where, at the very highest level, the president, who is a man, is able to challenge us, is able to challenge men. I would want to see the MPs. I would want to see the ministers. I would want to see the men, the traditional leaders, the clergy, the men in the bus stops, just to begin to challenge ourselves, because this is the missing link. This is what has been missing. But then we do have a lot of work to do, because we need to package the message, because whatever that they'll be challenging, it has to be correct information. Meaning, for them to have this correct information, they need a lot of programs like this, so that they can know what gender-based violence is. Once they know what gender-based violence is, they join the movement to end it. Because in most of the time, when men speaks, communities listen. They listen because of the respect that communities have placed on us as men. So that is one aspect that we need to have and we need to be aware of. Yeah.
Thank you so much. When you're having a nice conversation, I think time really, really flies. And thank you once again for joining our podcast today. I think you've shared a lot of very positive and helpful insights. So our viewers, today we've been joined by Mr. Havala, who has been helping me to unpack the conversation around why men should have the loudest voices when it comes to responding to gender-based violence and other gender-related issues. And so, Mr. Havala, do you have any final words to our viewers, to the men watching the podcast?
Yeah, we need to end violence like today. We say a quality man is not afraid of equality. So we need just to begin to have these conversations with ourselves. Even when we're just there at a club, we need to begin to have these conversations. Even in our workspace, we need to begin to have the conversations. At the clinic, at the hospital, we need to have these conversations. And thank you so much for the initiative. Please, we're doing good work for sensitizing a lot of men through experts like myself. Let's have a weekly discussions. For us, we're available anytime to have these discussions, because it's an opportunity to engage,
Absolutely,
to sensitize, and to educate the men.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you so much also for availing yourself for this important conversation. Well, thank you so much, our viewers, for joining us. This has been the Crisis of Manhood podcast with me, your host, Peter Mukuka. Until next time, please be sure to join us. But don't forget to subscribe and also share within your circles. Until next time, it's bye for now.
I keep it inside of me. Yeah, I keep it inside. It's killing the man in me. Yeah, it's killing the man. Keep it inside, I keep it inside of me.